our goal is to facilitate a community choice for what is most appropriate that the community feels. They want to, the community of Puna and Pāhoa, to name this particular feature of Fissure 8. And again, this does not mean that any of the other features that were created during the eruption of 2018 will be affected, but this is a process in which all future naming of any future new features that occurred during this time can follow in the same path. The big priority that we put on the resources that we gather are based off of these different three primary resources in which we reach out to community. And we specifically ask community members that have deep cultural knowledge and language history associated with place. That's the primary priority that we like to go to first, just because they are the culture bearers, the historians of each individual land area that we live in, and why not reach out to them first if we really want to get to the source of some of this information. The second would be community members that have language or other backgrounds within that land area, maybe not from the area, but have that cultural knowledge from that grounding point. And then third, just the community itself, that the community that lives in the area. So we broke it down into two categories, basically. A category of community members that live in this place, that have genealogical ties, that have Hawaiian language and cultural history. And these are the four names that fit that category. So you can, just for those that you in the back, just so you can hear, it's the four are Kiahilua Walu Opele, Ahu Aila'au, Kiahi Ena Ena, and Poha Ka'ena. Those are the four names that were presented that fit those initial categories. And then the second category are all of the other names that were presented by residents, off-island residents, people that have some Hawaiian background, that might be from a different area. And you can see these are all of the other names that were presented as well.
I live in Nana Valley, but I did live in Leilani. I was renting and I was going to buy the house. But now I built a house in Nana Valley. When it started, I started looking up what the meaning of number 8 was in Bible. I am a Christian, and that's where I came up with the creation, Hana Iana. And you can even put Pu'u in front of it for mountain. And I submitted several names, but the other names I submitted all mean the same thing. And then when I decided if I should come here tonight, I've been here since 1977, a Puna resident, and been with all the lava flows, even walked on it, and tennis shoes melted and everything else with cooling lava. But I started looking at the date it started on May 3rd, which also means growth and reproduction. It ended September 4th, which means creation of the world, all things that you are looking at today. And the number 8, I'll just read to you, just to let you know. The number 8 is the Bible, signifies resurrection and regeneration. It is the number of a new beginning. 8 is 7 plus 1, and since it comes just after 7, which itself signifies an end to something. So 8 is also associated with the beginning of a new era or a new order. So I just wanted to share that.
For a Hawaii person with Koko Hawaii, we have genealogies. And those genealogies go back to those voyages on those canoes. And one of many voyages was done by the Pele clan. And so when we name in those connections to that, it's because we are remembering those genealogical ties we have to those people. Basically, Pele is the magma, and it is the lava. And there's layers upon that that we call Hi'iaka, which is now also about growth. Yeah, and then layers upon that and upon that. But I hear what you're saying, and I think I just wanted to stand and share a little light so you understand why certain names are maybe a little bit, I don't want to say, I want to use the correct word. Yeah, I don't want to have misunderstandings. I'm trying to be clear. And so there's certain things that genealogically connect us.
So yeah, this is it's interesting. This is very unprecedented because this is the first time that we're naming a new feature. The last major kind of decision that the board addressed was this renaming of EL Stream to Wailuku River, or returning the name back to its original name of Wailuku River. And in that instance, the community came together and presented the historical information that they wanted to bring back to this particular feature, just because of at the time the returning of the water back to the stream was a big significant event for the people and community, and they wanted to recognize that moment. In this instance, because it's a new feature with new names that have no historical context other than the living people and the stories associated by the living people of today, I think that's the little bit of a difficulty in comparing the two.
I'll tell you who I want to vote for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shall I tell you now, or should I wait?
Yeah, sure.
Basically, yeah, my last name is Kiocho. It's Filipino. Ocho, of course, means number 8, right? biblically, right?
Yeah.
It's a new beginning for me, anyway. Why is that? Well, because I lived on Luana Lani. Luana Leilani. Lu, of course, being a pit. Yeah. So basically, the house I lived in is Fissure 8. And this dog's mom, her name was Luana. And this dog's name is Ilio Lani. Lani is, come heavenly, right? Yeah. But basically the reason I chose that, because when my Haole friends come over here and I talk Hawaiian to them, they don't understand. So somebody said, where Fissure 8 stay? I said, well, Leilani, go down Leilani. It's on a corner of Luana and Leilani. Easy. Just remember this, Luana Lani. Real easy. That's the reason I chose it. Now I lived Luana Lani a long time, Like I have a son, he's 17 years old. I was just at the last community meeting. That's another subject. I don't want to take up too much time, but my idea of having a healing was he's into skateboarding. And if it wasn't for the Empty Emily and this Boa skateboarding, I don't think he would have, appreciate the lava and Pele and what he's done. But basically, my suggestion is to make a major skateboard park at the end of Uncle Robert's Kalapana, that the world, it would be an international skateboard. I just want to throw that out as part of what my suggestion was. So, yeah. But basically, I named it, I threw it in, and by the way, I didn't mail it in. I walked in with that, and I handed it to the, what is that department of whatever it's called?
Planning.
Yeah. But hey, Lua, right there, it's a pit. I don't know what the ana part of it means, but it's a pit. It's a bottomless pit. And the last time I was out there doing my pule and make my offerings, there's fire down there. And as I looked down, I could see the top of my roof. No, I'm just joking. It's gone. It's gone. Anyway, that's the reason. So because you guys are going to do what is this, a new precedence? It's like number 8, a new beginning for you guys too, right? So I just thought I'd throw that out as why I, because I also lost my tooth, you see it? In the lava. And Christine told me that if they name it Luana Lani, that the city and county is going to present me some new dentures. Is that correct, Christine? Christine, if they name it, I didn't give you that name for nothing, Christine. Never mind. But anyway, do you have any questions for me? Anybody got any questions? Well, first of all, Aku is very kind to me. Let me put it this way. When he came to offer me the $30,000 from FEMA, I don't want to say I stepped on some dog poo, but I was renting to own, sir. Renting to own. So my owner, Terry Chambers, a Holly guy, well, yeah. But him, Del Pranky, me, we're all Vietnam vets. I'm a wounded warrior. Del's a wounded warrior. Us guys, we're all wounded guys, so we hang around together. But, what was your question? No. What was it? Yeah.
No, I was Black Sands.
Oh, Black Sands. Yeah. A lot of tremors up there, right? Yeah. Hey, Mahal. Out of curiosity, are you part Filipino?
I am.
Oh, yes. Christine said that you was like pure Hawaiian or something like that. Because your knowledge and everything is like, because, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And my dog thanks you. Ilio, you have anything to say? No, he said thank you.
Let's say a little bit. My name's Dane DuPont. I run Hawaii Tracker. I didn't expect to speak tonight, but the microphone's been sitting around, so might as well. I always, I grew up around here for a long time, since I was a little kid. One thing I always was told was when something new happens, when some new feature happens, the Kupuna get together, they decide, and that's the local Kupuna decide, and that's what the name is. And I'm looking at this list, and it's like, all right, so that's been done already. You had Auntie Piulani, you had Auntie Lay, you had Uncle Keone, get together, and they submitted a name. So it's, to me, I'm like, yeah, I don't have any name to put out. It's just, kind of like let the old way return on this type of thing. To letting the area Kupuna decide. When something happens in Hilo, then their Kupuna can decide. When something happens in Kona, okay. But this one should be, pretty straightforward to me. I've spent a lot of time online. Let me tell you one thing I would not do. Popular vote, especially online if it isn't geofenced. Geofencing as in you have to live in Puna and been here for a while and stuff like that, and that's really hard to implement and check and that kind of thing. You leave it up into open internet, you're going to end up with something like Pu'u Mik Pu'u face or something crazy. Like that's just what the internet does to things. So don't let it get to this. I'm speaking for myself, but I know that there's plenty of people in our community, including plenty of friends at the hub, that are also on board with this type of decision-making process. It's great to entertain a lot of these names, and it's awesome people, feel so attached to it to be able to come up with these creative solutions. But at the end of the day, it's, I'm like, I shouldn't have a call on this. I shouldn't be sitting here telling you to take the name that was put up by the Kupuna. That should just be, how this type of thing is done. But that's just how, I learned about it. But that's really all I had to say. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, mahalo. These 4 names are actually from Kupuna, from Puna. Yeah, so these names, so the one, yeah, no, not at all. So again, based off of our own guidelines, we try to pay honor and respect to the living people and community of this place first, yeah, and then expand out beyond all of those rings into the community, broader community, and then into the the broadest community. But yeah, these 4 names are name submissions from Kupuna residents, family genealogical ties to Puna. And that's why they've been identified in this particular category, whereas the other names are of all other groups, residents from from this island, from Kona to Hilo to all different parts of the island, from Maui, from from all over, as well as different cultural knowledge bearers that lived in different areas. But these names specifically are identified as name submissions from Kupuna and genealogical family ties to this place?
I think I'd just like to suggest that the board consider that primary sources, that is genealogy, and even older than us, because we're so fortunate in Hawaii to have documented these things, be relied on as a priority. I know it's a democratic process that we're going through, but in the traditional times, and if we're looking for traditional names, I think we can still stick to some of that traditional way because we still have that available. Because I found it kind of interesting that it was just open to anyone. Of course, with priority, I saw priority given to Puna ties. And I guess we're saying genealogy. But then, you know, Lei's right. We have people who don't live here anymore. The oldest one I submitted to you folks, I think he was born in the time of Kamehameha, and it's documented. But he doesn't live here anymore. In fact, his son was respondent, son or daughter, living in Tacoma, Washington in 1830s. I mean, our people went, but their ties, as he expressed it very eloquently in the newspaper article, very endearing to this place. I think that's the kind of priority that needs to be given by the board. And we have that available. I know it takes a little work, but you have Hawaiian speakers, I know, Noi, and others who can help you. Because that's how our primary information was documented. Then later on you have other kinds of documentation, surveying and whatever, to verify some of these things. But I'd like to give that kind of recommendation for a criteria to prioritize. Since it is available, I know it takes a little bit more work, but it can be done. And that would be honoring, really, the closest we can get to the people from the place. So the name I've suggested to you, for example, is not a name that I made up. No, it's a traditional name. And it's a well-known name. I only wish I could bring those people back to verify that to you. I can only use what they left. So I feel that it's a name that connects, as I suggested, to the whole eruption, not just one puka that seemed to be pretty gorgeous, but everything else is the whole thing. So, and it's not my name, it's the name that comes down from our genealogy from way before.
To give a little bit of background on what Kumu Larry was mentioning, he was a name submitter that presented the name Papalauahi. Papalauahi, and intending it to be the name for all of the features that that occurred during the 2018 eruption. Yeah, so Papalauahi there. And you know, I think in the naming process, you know, for the Hawaii Board on Geographic Names as well as for the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, it's kind of difficult to give one name to multiple features, you know, especially 24. You know, all this whole land area and all of the features all carrying the same name.
I really think our name. There are many. You know that we have names. I'm not against Leilani Estates, is that, and Lani Puna Gardens, and many more. But I sometimes think that we're getting further away from our genealogy, which is Hawaii, when we do that. And you have a responsibility in naming. I think you should set some priorities, rather than be told how to do it.
you know, we were requested to do a specific thing, and so that's the thing that we're doing. I completely agree with you, and I think that one of the things is, as the board, we're constituted in a certain way to do a certain thing.
I really don't think, I think we have the privilege to suggest changes.
Yes, yes. But what I was going to say was, I think that I completely agree with you that Papalauahi is a beautiful name for the entire event.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm talking about criteria for your work more than a specific name. But thank you for that. Yes.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is that naming, from my perspective, naming happens outside of the board as well. Normally, what we're dealing with okay, here's how I understand how names happen without a state board. So names happen, people observed things, our Kupuna observed things, there were events, they named things, those names were accepted, and then they were used, and that's how they got to be the name. So there are other ways that names take hold other than through this kind of a process. And so, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I think that what you presented is, and I hope it catches on, is what I'm saying, as a name for the entire sequence of events that created all of this, from all the way from Fissure 8 down to the recreation of Kapoho coastline, right?
What do you mean catches on?
I mean, if we start using it and saying it, if we start using Papalauahi to describe the entire event.
Oh, you're saying, no, I'm not suggesting Papalauahi for one vision.
You were suggesting it for the whole event of the flow, right?
Because it occurred, it is the name of the place where it occurred. Yes, that's what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
You're given a responsibility as the board of Geographic Hawaiian Names. Is that the official? And you have representatives from our state government authorized. Could you not help to educate our government about this priority on going back to our people who actually named these places?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why do we need to come up with brand new names like this unless there's no name for it? And then if there's no name for it, I still am recommending that we don't have those people from 1800s or wherever when writing occurred, but when writing occurred, they took advantage of that and they documented thousands and thousands of names and information. I know that's a little bit more work for you, as I mentioned, but I think we shouldn't ignore that first as priority. That's all I'm suggesting.
So I completely agree with that. And so I'm just saying that the thing that we were asked to do was to help the community come up with a name for something that has not existed before, that it is something new on the land. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
This is a new process. This is a process that has not happened ever in the board's entirety of its existence. So, and that's, yeah.
This event affected more than just Hawaii people. This event affected everybody who's living here. And what I was hoping that this process would do was provide everyone who had anything to say about this an opportunity to heal from that process, or an opportunity to continue on their healing process as a result of this event. And so submitting a name that you felt compelled because you felt you have a reason for it is part of your healing process. And so I recommended to people, hey, even if you have a name, put it in, because it will be considered seriously, okay?
I know it's hard for the living it was hard for those who were living before and before and before. And it will be harder when you and I are not here for those who are going to continue to live in Puna. All I'm saying is getting clarity to a name that's grounded in Hawaiian language, but beyond just using verbs and nouns and letters, there is a connection to our genealogy, to the place. And I think that is the primary criteria. And if you and I were not here way before the others were here, but they left information that you and I don't even know unless we read it and find out about it, I think we should acknowledge that. I know we could get used to any of those names up there, you know, within our lifetime. Then the heck with all about those guys who came before us, who made Hawaii what Hawaii is and should continue to be. That's your responsibility in place names. If you want Hawaii to change to Leilani Gardens or Lanipuni Gardens and Leilani Estates, okay, that sounds pretty nice. That's very superficial to me as a Hawaiian. I know you folks are all Hawaiian too. But my Hawaiian is not just for this time. It comes from way, way, way back. And it's going to continue. That's all. That's all. I think that should be something that is clear. Before we start thinking about, I know it, people suffered. People suffered down Kalapana, Kapa'ahu, Kona, Alika, all over, Kaniahiku. How many flows do you want to count? And there'll be many more. So, I know, you know, that's hurtful. What about those people who got hurt before? And before, and before, and before. Lohi au puna ikia kua wahine. I'm trying to get to responsible work that you need to look into. That's all. I'm not being critical, but that's my manao.
It sounds to me like you're suggesting that we should do some research and find some names from this area, that are older names.
Or just names around the place, but names that pertain to volcano eruptions are here. Yeah, and are connected to the. I haven't heard that much about Ailau, but I looked it up and it exists. Of course, Pele is the Malihini. She came as a newcomer, like lots of people are coming here as newcomers. She came as a newcomer, but she established herself within that time and made a good name for her, apparently.
Gardens, I moved out in 1980. I built a house in Royal Gardens. I sold the house for cash. 6 weeks later, the lava flow started. I was looking out my window when it started. The name of that lava flow is Pu'uo'o. The name of the hill is Pu'uo'o. There was a meeting held in Kalapana with a bunch of the Kupuna, many of whom were my neighbors. The USGS said, well, we have this letter O on the map, and that's all we have for a designation. And one of the people said, well, more better call it O'o, after one digging stick. That's what happened. They chose the name, Pu'uo'o, on the map, is a historical marker for what happened. To me, when I look at the map of Hawaii, many of the names are about what happened. They're about actual events, people who engaged in events, the events themselves. Now we have another pu'u. As far as I'm concerned, we already have a tradition for naming this. Pu'uo'o was caused by geothermal drilling. That's well known. Fissure is obviously caused by geothermal fracking. Therefore, You double the name when it rises to a higher level, and the name that I have recommended, that I have cleared with other Kupuna, Native Hawaiians, is Pu'u'o'o, to mark the damage that was done, along with Pu'u'o'o, the $1 billion worth of damage that was done to Puna by the geothermal. Thank you.
Again, I think if there are, if there's mana'o that people are able to gather from Kupuna, or just even yourselves, if you have mana'o that you can think of, more than happy to receive them. I think through the Hawaii Board on Geographic Names website, there's a link to an email contact information there that you can send any mana'o or anything that you wish to add to this process, so that all of that information can be gathered. We don't currently have a third meeting scheduled at the moment. There possibly could be, if there's any updates on the process. Yeah, but again, we really hope that the community can come together, have smaller, individual gatherings and sharing, so that information can be compiled and presented in a more official way.
I think the sooner we can get our report in, the sooner the board can make their decisions and get back to the people of Puna with a decision that's, we hope, based on more of the community members coming together on. Because, to be clear, the board does not choose the name, okay? The board designates a name, but they don't choose it. There's a difference, subtle but important difference there.
Well, what's going to happen if there's no recommendation?
From the people of Puna?
Correct.
Then it won't go anywhere. If there's no recommendation for the people of this place, that there's no name or anything that they can come together with, it won't move forward.
Okay, so what if later on they decide?
Then it will start up again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because I think there's two things that I'm hearing right now. The process is not acceptable to the community. And the other thing is the board has a process that they're going to vet through. So there's a little bit of conflict there. And I think that hopefully the board can come back to the community and ask them what this process would work, so that there is a name that's vetted. If that's all, I mean, collectively we all want to have a name. But what if the community doesn't give a name because they're not acceptable to the process? Just saying. Mahalo.
When I assumed the role on the council in December, reached out and we had a conversation in January about how you were lifting up this process. And what I really appreciated was how thoughtful and deliberate you were in thinking about how you can architect something that was truly community driven and that you could support. And we're seeing that process play out. We've seen it play out this year. And so my suggestion about how we could proceed, and I'd like to talk to Sue about this because she did introduce the resolution to get you involved, is maybe we can have a discussion at the county council level, because this is our moku, and we can invite the public to come and to talk about the names that have been submitted. And maybe we can do it in a time that is timely enough so that you have enough time during the holidays to submit your report in a timely manner. So I just wanted to offer that up because it's very clear that there is a lot going on this evening and we want to make sure that we are getting the mana'o of our community. And so just wanted to offer that. And thank you so much for being here.
Mahalo nui.